What's happening? The offensive staff spoke for the first time yesterday. What'd they say and what are my thoughts? That's coming up a little bit later, but we start with the draft. Everything Pats, a New England Patriots podcast. Thanks for joining us. As always, the Colorado Pro Day is happening right now as we go live on YouTube. Of course, Shedeur Sanders is there throwing the football. Travis Hunter ran some routes just a few moments ago. Ryan Cowden is there representing the Patriots. So a pretty big day at the Colorado Pro Day. Can Shedeur Sanders woo the Cleveland Browns or the New York Giants into believing that he is a true franchise quarterback? It's a pretty big day for the Giants and Browns. It's a huge day for Shedeur Sanders, and it's a big day for the Patriots as well. The Giants have a big-time contingent at the Pro Day watching everything unfold, and we'll see. We'll see what is reported following this workout today at Colorado. But I want to focus on the Patriots picking at 4, and I want to take a look at the idea of Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty, is he a legitimate option at number 4? I'll fix my light here. Forgot to put that light on. Hopefully that makes it look a little bit better. There it is. It is better. Ashton Jeanty should 100%, to me, Jeanty should 100% be entertained at number 4. If you're the Patriots and Carter and Hunter are gone, you can't trade down. Ashton Jeanty is on the list of players that you're looking at. To go along with Will Campbell and Mason Graham and others, Jeanty should be on that list. Again, if Carter, Hunter, a trade down, those options aren't there for you, Jeanty should be in the conversation. That's where I start. He should be in the conversation. But should he be the guy? Should he be the guy the Patriots draft at number 4 if they can't get Carter, if they can't get Hunter, and they can't trade down? Jeanty is ranked 3rd in the consensus big board of The Athletic that came out earlier today. Jeanty, consensus-wise, is seen as the 3rd best player in this draft if you were just putting up a big board. We're not talking about positional value. We're not talking about team needs. We're just looking at a big board, the consensus. Jeanty is number 3 on that list. He's an outstanding player. Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network wrote this about Jeanty in his top 50 write-up this week, which, by the way, Jeanty is 3rd on Jeremiah's top 50 list as well. Outstanding vision, tempo, and feel. On inside runs, the Boise State product has a unique ability to absorb and bounce off tacklers. He has quick feet and never stops driving on contact, leading to some miraculous escapes and home runs. He is rarely, if ever, tackled when presented with one-on-one situations at the second level, exhibiting the capacity to run through defenders, make them miss, or just burst by them. He has reliable hands, can create in space after the catch. He can identify, absorb, and wall off in pass pro. Overall, Jeanty might lack ideal size, but he's a mixture of Dalvin Cook and J.K. Dobbins as a runner. So Daniel Jeremiah says that Ashton Jeanty is a mix of Dalvin Cook and J.K. Dobbins as a runner. Grant Cohn out in the Bay Area, he posted this in the middle of February. The top 20 highest graded prospects in the draft, according to NFL.com, Ashton Jeanty was number 1. His grade was a 7.15. Abdul Carter was 7, even. Travis Hunter was a 6.83. There's no denying that Ashton Jeanty is one of the best prospects in this draft. And if you're looking at a player that has the opportunity to become somebody special, you could argue that Jeanty is one of those guys. And as we've talked about, there are not many of those guys in this draft. You look up and down the big boards, you look up and down the positional rankings, and you realize that there's not a ton of top-tier talent in this draft, right? Now, there's going to be, I think, more talent than people believe, because there's usually more talent in drafts than people believe. That's how you get Puka Nacua getting drafted in the 5th round. But when you look at the top tier blue chip prospects, special players, guys that can make an immediate impact, make a big difference to your football team, Jeanty is one of the very few in this draft that will be there sitting at 4. And you could argue once Hunter and Carter are off the board, Jeanty could be that next guy as far as truly special. He could be that guy. And that's the argument, right? The argument is if you're drafting Ashton Jeanty at 4th overall, you believe he can be a special player. You believe that Jeanty is much more than just a running back. You think he is dynamic. You think he's explosive. You think he can do things on the football field that other running backs, or 98% of those running backs, they simply can't do. And that Jeanty's, his traits, his athleticism, separate him from just another running back. That's what you have to believe. You have to believe if you draft this guy 4th overall, you've got to believe that Jeanty is going to be one of the best running backs in football. He's going to be a top 3, top 4, top 5 guy at his position. Because if you don't believe he's going to be a top 3 running back at the NFL level, no matter what he did at Boise State, if you don't believe he's going to be a top 3 running back in the NFL, then you're not drafting that guy at number 4. You're just not. It's not happening, and it shouldn't happen. I lean against drafting Jeanty at 4. If you ask me right now today, April 4th, 2025, would I draft Ashton Jeanty at number 4 if Hunter, Carter are not there and I can't trade down? I would say no. Now, I think it's a conversation. I think it's something you entertain. I think you could debate each side of this. But me personally, if I'm calling the shots, if I'm Mike Vrabel and I'm at that facility at Gillette Stadium on draft night, and my pick comes up at number 4, and Hunter's gone, Carter's gone, nobody's calling, I'm leaning against the idea of drafting Jeanty for a few reasons. Number one, I mentioned the frame. Daniel Jeremiah, he wrote how Jeanty lacks ideal size. When you look at Jeanty, he's 5'8.5", so he's just about my height. He's 211 pounds. When you combine his frame, when you combine his size with the amount of touches he had at Boise State, that's where I get a little bit concerned. Jeanty, his 3 years at Boise State, Jeanty had 830 touches. 830 touches in his 3 years at Boise State. That is a ton of touches in college football. He had the football a ton. And he took, obviously, a number of hits, even though he's ridiculously elusive and he's very talented. 830 touches at 5'8.5", 211 pounds. And obviously, if you saw the video of Jeanty last week, the dude's put together, but he's 5'8.5" with 830 touches at the collegiate level. And I have to ask, if I'm the Patriots, do you think Ashton Jeanty is going to be the same guy in year 4 or 5 that he's going to be for you in year 1? Because if you draft at number 4 and you draft somebody who makes an impact for your football team for 2 or 3 seasons, that's not enough, right? You're drafting somebody at number 4 that you believe can be a difference maker for the next 7, 8, 9 years. And I do wonder that wear and tear. The running back position is tough to begin with. And the fact that Jeanty is not as big as some other guys, and the fact that he had all of those touches at Boise State, I do wonder if I draft that guy at number 4, is he going to start falling apart? Is the train going to start falling away and off the rails by year 3 or 4? And if I'm even questioning that, if I'm wondering if this guy might start getting toast by year 3 or 4, I'm not spending the 4th pick overall in this draft on somebody that I'm asking those questions about. Injuries happen. Anything can happen. You can draft a guy at number 4, he can get hurt, and his career is over. You obviously don't want that. Nobody wants it. But if you're looking at how much he had the football, when you're looking at the usual wear and tear at that position, and drafting him in the top 5, is he going to be that difference maker for 8 years? If he's not, I'm passing. Another reason why I lean against drafting Ashton Jeanty at number 4 is that this running back class is stacked. We've talked about it. This running back class is loaded. There are about 20 draftable guys, if not more than that. You've got a bunch of names in this draft that could be really good running backs at the NFL level. And so the question is, even if you believe that Jeanty is really, really good, even if you believe that Jeanty has the potential to be special, what is the difference between Jeanty and the next 5 or 6 running backs in this draft? Is that gap between Jeanty and the other running backs, is it that significant that you feel you have to spend a top 5 pick on that guy? Or do you think that you could get a running back in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round that while that running back is not as good as Jeanty, it might not be in the same class as Jeanty, is that running back really good? Because if I could draft somebody at 4 overall at a position that I feel is more useful to me, and I can draft a guy who I think can make that impact for the next 8, 9, 10 years, then why not draft that guy at 4 and come back around in the 3rd, 4th round and draft a running back that could have an impact for me that might have had less touches than Jeanty, a little bit bigger than Jeanty, and I say, well, I can get 6 good years out of that guy. And if you draft Jeanty at 4, who do you get in the 3rd or 4th round that can have that same amount of impact as the running back you might get? This is the balancing act that you have to go through when you're drafting. And so because of this running back class being so loaded, I just believe it's better to draft somebody else at 4 and get your running back later, because you're going to be able to get a really good running back in this draft late day 2, maybe even day 3. You might even be able to get a good running back as an undrafted free agent. That's how deep this running back class is. So why spend that top 5 pick at that position when I can get that position later in the draft? I don't think the difference between Jeanty and running back 5 or 6 is that massive that I say I've got to spend a top 5 pick on that guy. I think it's better to utilize that 4th pick on somebody else at some other position and then wrap around later and get your running back. That would be my approach. I mean, run game in the NFL, it's a lot of it is scheme, right? With the motion now and the sweeps and the designed quarterback runs. A lot of run game in the NFL is scheme, and a lot of the run game in the NFL is blocking the offensive line. It's more important to me to have that offensive line settled than go get a stud running back at number 4. If you draft Ashton Jeanty, and he may be special, and he may give you 3, 4 great years, right? He might give you more than that. But is Jeanty as good as he could be for another team with a better offensive line? To me, I want to settle up front. I want to settle other pieces. Like, running back is almost a luxury piece. Everybody looks at Saquon Barkley joining Philadelphia, and everybody makes it about Saquon Barkley. And look, Barkley was fantastic last year. There's no doubt about it. The dude was great, right? But you know what else Philadelphia had? Philadelphia had wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They had a really good tight end in Dallas Goedert. They had a good quarterback in Jalen Hurts, but they also had a terrific offensive line. So Saquon Barkley was that final piece. Saquon Barkley put Philadelphia over the top. Patriots aren't there. Patriots don't have wide receiver 1. I think Diggs is more a 2, especially if he misses the first month of the season, which we should expect him to. They don't have wide receiver 1. They don't have a left tackle that they're comfortable with. They might not have a left guard that they're comfortable with. Ashton Jeanty is a luxury. Ashton Jeanty is the final icing on the cake that you put on top. I want to settle wide receiver. I want to settle that offensive line, and then I'll go get my running back. But maybe some of you disagree. If you do, throw it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know if you disagree with that point. Would you want the Patriots to draft Jeanty at number 4 overall? Would you be happy with that draft selection? Throw a comment in. Let me know how you feel. Because as I always say, when you click that thumbs up as you watch on YouTube, that helps us with the algorithm. Also, when you throw those comments in, it helps us with the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. Last couple days, we have made some big jumps in subscribers. We are about 50 subscribers away from our goal of 6,500. Let's keep on pushing. We're about 50 subs away from hitting 6,500, which was the goal for one night only, that first round, Thursday night of the NFL draft. I want to see 6,500 subscribers so we can celebrate on draft night. We're about 50 away from that. So don't forget to click that thumbs up. Don't forget to throw your comments in, and don't forget to subscribe. Spotify, Apple Pods, my friends over there, rate, review, and follow. 5-star reviews are huge. I appreciate every single one of you. So I lean against drafting Jeanty. How do you feel about it? Again, throw a comment in. Before I get to the offensive staff, Josh McDaniels. What did Josh McDaniels have to say yesterday that stood out to me? A few things. How about Doug Marrone? New offensive line coach. he said a couple of things that jumped out at me. We'll get to those, but first, let me pull up this super chat from Vitalix, a $10 super chat. Thank you, Vitalix. I've heard you talk about some players having young legs because they were out a year, etc. Any concern with the amount of snaps Hunter's taken and his longevity? Thanks, Nick. Yes. I mean, look, it's a great story when you play on both sides of the football and you play as many snaps as Hunter did. But I think you have to have at least some concern about Hunter's ability to continue to play at a very high level, 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years down the road, because he did put a lot on his body at Colorado. He got through it, and by all accounts, he got through it fine, but he's not the biggest dude in the world. So I do think, when you look at Hunter, just like I said about Jeanty and the amount of touches that he got, when you look at how much Travis Hunter played at Colorado and how much that put on his body, yes, I do think that's part of the assessment. I'd still draft him because he's young, and I think he has the potential to be special, and he plays a position that you desperately need at wide receiver, and I think he has the ceiling of being a very good wide receiver. And from what everybody writes and says about him, he's a hard worker. He has incredible work ethic. He has just unbelievable conditioning. He cares about himself. He cares about the team, and he cares about playing well and working hard. So I would absolutely draft him. But yes, I do think that's part of the conversation. It would be ignorant to not, talk about the taxing on his body from what he did. Thanks, Vitalix. Appreciate you for the 10. Mr. Snoopy jumped in with a $2 super chat. 3rd and 7th, Saints call us at 4. Would you do it? A 3rd and a 7th. No. Well, I don't know. A 3rd. I'd want a 2nd, but you know what? I'd probably take the 3rd, Mr. Snoopy. I'd probably take the 3rd. I'd take a 3rd round pick to jump down 5 spots if Hunter and Carter aren't there, because I just don't think there's a lot of separation. We've talked about this, and we're going to keep talking about this as we get closer to the draft. There's just not a ton of separation between these players that you're sitting there looking at 4 if Hunter and Carter are off the board, right? Jeanty asked questions. I just brought them up. Tyler Warren, I was just reading today that some people think Loveland could end up being picked before Warren. Some people think that he'll be the better NFL tight end than Warren. It's a debate. There are questions about Warren, right? Is he truly like that spectacular at the tight end position that you want to draft him in the top 5? Mason Graham has some of the size questions we mentioned earlier this week on the pod. Jalen Walker, is he an outside linebacker? Is he an inside linebacker? How do you use him? Does he end up being a tweener? You could just go through all of the questions about all of these guys. Campbell, we've talked about. We'll talk about him in a minute. Armand Membu, we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. So if I could get a 3rd round pick and a 7th, again, I'd want a 2nd, but I think I would take that. I think I would take the 3rd round pick to drop down 5 spots. But I would hope I'd get a little bit more than that. All right, let's get to the offensive staff meeting with the media yesterday, including one Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, talking about Drake May, said that he is smitten. Love that word. It's a quality old school word, smitten. McDaniels said he's smitten with Drake May in terms of his personality. He said he hasn't talked football with May. Do you believe that? I don't know. They're not supposed to, but something tells me they might have talked a little bit about football at some point. And look, this is not a surprise that Josh McDaniels is smitten with Drake May, because every coach that has dealt with Drake May, when you hear them talk about the quarterback, they love the guy. And it's because of all the things we talked about leading into the draft last year. It's about all the things we talked about during camp last year and throughout the season when he got out there and started to play. Drake May seems like the perfect pupil for any coach, right? He's modest. He doesn't think too highly of himself, doesn't walk in with a huge ego. He works his tail off. He's tough. And he seems to be a really good leader. I mean, when you have those qualities, when you're modest with a really good work ethic, you're a tough guy, and you lead people, when you have those 4 qualities, most coaches are going to be smitten with you. Most coaches are going to love you. Now, what about the offense that May will be running? This is according to Evan Lazar, post that he had. McDaniels says there's a language and strategy part to building offense. That strategy part, he says, is all about what's best for the players. He said, our language has been refined. Our language has been refined. We've talked about the challenges of a Josh McDaniels offense. And the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges of that Earhart-Perkins offense that we wanted to get rid of a couple of years ago, is the language involved, right? You have these long play calls, just crazy, right? You also have, adjustments in your routes if you're wide receivers. There's a bunch of other things, but the language could be a huge barrier. And McDaniels, I think, was able to cut that language down in 2021, and he was able to simplify the offense in 2021 when he had a rookie quarterback and a bunch of new pieces. And I think he's going to do something that is very similar this year during this camp. I think he's going to strip down the language. He said refine it. I think he's going to strip it down, make it a little bit more simple for people to, digest. Now, Hunter Henry should have it because he was part of the offense in 2021. Kendrick Bourne should have a good idea because he was part of the offense in 2021. But when you look at, even Ramondre Stevenson, right? He was part of it as well. But I loved hearing McDaniels say that he is going to refine the language in the offense because that tells me he's adapting. He's adapting. He's going to make sure that everybody on that side of the football understands what they're trying to do and that they're all on the same page. I'm not surprised. We talked about it when he was hired as the offensive coordinator, that I expected him to make things a little bit more simple, right? To simplify concepts and terms until everybody understands what the heck is going on out there. So I loved hearing Josh McDaniels say that he's going to refine the language. That tells me he's going to simplify that language in the offense, and he's going to make it easier for the people that are trying to do what he wants them to do. McDaniels also said that the Patriots will definitely adapt the offense to May and the rest of the personnel, which is significant. He's going to design an offense that utilizes the strengths of Drake May, which is exactly what you should be doing if you're the Patriots. He's looking at the talent they have. He's looking at what they do best, and he is going to fit his offense within what those players do best. We heard some of that last year, right? But then we found out that the Patriots are trying to run, zone, and these outside zone runs weren't necessarily great for the offensive line or Ramondre Stevenson, and they still tried to do it, and it didn't work. I don't want any square pegs and round holes. Josh McDaniels has to make sure that he's running an offense that everybody's comfortable with. And my hope is this. Here are some of the things I want to see. I want to see downhill duo run game, right? That aggressive, brutal run game going downhill, having two guys block one, let Ramondre Stevenson hit those holes quick and move forward. I want to see downhill and duo running. I want to see screens. I want to see screens specifically thrown to Pop Douglas. I want to see more screens to Pop Douglas to get him into space. I want to see more screens thrown to Kendrick Bourne. I want Antonio Gibson to be a much, much bigger aspect of the passing game because I thought that was a major whiff by Alex Van Pelt last year. Gibson is one of the best pass-catching running backs in football. They did not use him enough last year in that role. So I want to see screens to Pop. I want to see screens to Bourne. And I want to see more Gibson in the pass game. I want to see more motion. Josh McDaniels in his history has not used a ton of motion. I hope he has changed that with everything that he's learned over the last year that we've talked about. I want to see more motion from his offense. I want to see them use Stephon Diggs in his versatility. I want Diggs inside. I want him outside. I want him moving all around the line of scrimmage. Take advantage of his versatility. Tight ends down the seams. I want to see a decent amount of that. Henry and Hooper running down the seam, stretching the field in that way. I want to see designed runs for Drake May. Not a ton of them, but give me 3 or 4 design runs every single week with May. Short down and distance, right? And I want to see red zone runs with your quarterback. Take advantage of his athleticism. Mike Vrabel has said they're going to do that. I want to see it. So those are some of the things that I want to see from a Josh McDaniels offense. And some of those things have not been part of McDaniels' offense in the past, or at least have not been prevalent like motion. Andrew Callahan posted this. McDaniels says he will be a different coach now because of what he learned visiting different NFL and college programs last season. So how is he going to be different? We'll see. Is McDaniels going to be different when it comes to messaging? Is he going to have a slightly different temperament with players? Is he going to be different when it comes to sequencing certain plays? Is he going to be open-minded, maybe a little bit more offensively than he might have been? Don't forget, you've got Thomas Brown as your tight end, coach and your pass game coordinator. You've got Todd Downing, who is your wide receivers coach. You've got some offensive brain power here. And so hopefully McDaniels is more open to having those voices in the room, helping him put together the offense. What about the wide receiver room? What did McDaniels have to say about the wide receiver room? He said he's excited about all those guys. Everybody has a clean slate. To me, that's going to be an important message that the coach is going to give on Monday. Clean slate. Clean slate. And I've said this before. Some of you can kill me if you'd like. Whatever. It's all good. I am not totally out on Polk or Baker. Now, do I think the likelihood is that they're going to be great? Of course not. But I never quit on a guy after his rookie season. I've said that time and time again. It is a philosophy of mine. I don't think that you throw people out and just forget about them after one single season after a draft. I don't think you do that. So I am not totally out on Jalen Polk, and I'm not totally out on Javon Baker. I'm leaving room to see if they can do something, to at least contribute. I have not totally quit on those guys. But of course, with the wide receiver room, it's going to be a numbers game. Eventually, if you draft one or two receivers in this draft, now you've got like 7 or 8 guys in that room. And you're not going to carry 7 or 8 guys on your roster. You're not going to have 7 or 8 wide receivers on the 53. It's just not going to happen. So eventually somebody has to go, and likely eventually a couple of people have to go. Whether that's Booty, it's Baker, it's Polk, I don't know. It's certainly not going to be Diggs. It's not going to be Matt Collins. I don't believe it's going to be Pop Douglas. Maybe it will be Kendrick Bourne, but Kendrick Bourne had his best year in the NFL in 2021 with Josh McDaniels. So eventually you're going to run into the numbers game. But as far as walking into camp, I'm open-minded, clean slate. Let's see if Polk and or Baker could do anything. All right, I want to get to Doug Marrone in the offensive line, some of the thoughts that he shared yesterday. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help a brother out, build the community. We're about 50 subscribers away from our goal of 6,500 by the first round of the NFL draft, which is less than 3 weeks away. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to rate and review my friends at Spotify, Apple Pods. Mr. Snoopy back with a $2 super chat. You trade out 9 if we did that and get more picks. So Mr. Snoopy wants like 5 trades. I don't want to drop down beyond like 9 or 10. I really don't. I don't think you want to drop down below 9. Like, to me, 9's a good spot. You could still get a number of these players that we talk about. A number of these guys that we talk about at 4 could get drafted at 7, 8, 9, 10. This could be a very unpredictable draft, I think. But I would not, if I'm dropping from 4 to 9, I'm not trading out of 9 again. I'm not getting too crazy. You could do it if you'd like. I wouldn't do it. All right, let's get to Doug Marrone. Mike Vrabel's most critical hire this offseason has been, outside of the coordinators, has been Doug Marrone. You've got Marrone, you've got Jason Hotailing, and you've got Robert Kugler. You've got not 1, not 2, but 3 offensive line coaches. And your number 1 top guy, not the assistant O-line coach, but the O-line coach, of course, is Marrone. And Marrone's been around football for roughly like 50 years. But this is the most critical hire because the Patriots have had a juggling act at offensive line coaching for the last 3-4 years. And they need Marrone to bring stability. The $1 million question, we were all waiting to find out what Doug Marrone had to say about arm length. Mark Daniels transcribed this. Here's what Marrone said about arm length. I always look at it as, do you play that way or do you play longer? Do you play to the max of what you have or do you play under what you have? I've had guys in the past that have played for me that have 33, 34-inch arms and haven't played like that. I've had some guys that have had some shorter arms and have played like they had longer arms. So Marrone says arm length doesn't matter as much as how you use the arm length that you have. Now, what about Will Campbell specifically? Marrone said he has not seen arm length be a factor for Will Campbell. So Doug Marrone, watching the film from LSU, he says he has not seen arm length get in the way of Will Campbell's play. Now, some other things might get in the way, but Marrone says arm length has not been one of them. But pay close attention to this. Phil Perry pointed this out on NBC Sports Boston last night, and I thought it was a very smart point by Phil Perry. Here's the quote from Doug Marrone talking about Will Campbell. He'd been obviously productive. I've noticed it being an issue. I've not noticed it being an issue for him being at the level he's at right now. And Phil Perry underlined that last part, and I think it's a very smart point by Phil. Notice what Doug Marrone said. He said that Will Campbell's been productive. He said that he has not noticed arm length being an issue for Will Campbell at the level he's at right now. So Doug Marrone is not necessarily telling you that arm length won't be a problem for Campbell when he gets to the NFL. He's telling you that what he has seen on the film, arm length has not been a problem. It was not a problem for Will Campbell in the SEC. It wasn't a problem in the SEC, but that doesn't mean it won't be a problem in the NFL, especially when you have speed rushers off the edge. You have better athletes in the NFL. As great as the SEC is, it ain't the NFL. So I thought that was a very good point by Phil, at the level he's at right now. So at the college level, at the SEC level, arm length hasn't gotten in the way. Now, of course, Marrone didn't say he believes that arm length will be an issue for Campbell when he gets to the NFL. It's just we have to acknowledge him saying it's not a problem for him at the college level. That's not really a guarantee or a blanket statement saying, I believe Will Campbell will be fine at tackle in the NFL, which is interesting because now you start to look at what people have said publicly, right? On Monday, Vrabel said Campbell's a tackle. Elliot Wolf on Monday, when he was speaking with Mike Felger, said that Campbell's a tackle or a guard. He left it open-ended. And now you have Marrone saying, I haven't seen length be an issue for Will Campbell on the film in the SEC. So you have the three main people here, right? You've got Vrabel, Wolf, and Marrone. Vrabel leading the team. It's his program. It's his vision. He's running the shop, as we know. Then you've got Wolf, who's leading the scouts. And then you've got Marrone, who's going to be your offensive line coach. And all three guys had different degrees, right? Varying degrees of how confident they sound in Will Campbell. Vrabel sounded pretty confident. Of course, he drafted Skoronski when they were in Tennessee, and we all know what happened with Skoronski. He ended up being a guard very quickly. But Vrabel said, hey, Campbell's a tackle. Wolf said tackle or guard. Marrone said arm length hasn't bothered him at the level he's at right now. It's important. It's also important to note that Marrone, as he mentioned to the media yesterday, he was at Alabama back in 2021 with Bill O'Brien. And, he recruited. He recruited Will Campbell. He recruited Kelvin Banks. He recruited Josh Connerly. So Marrone, while he was at Alabama, he was recruiting these tackles. So he has an extensive knowledge of all of these tackles in this draft class because he's been watching them since their high school days. And I think that's good, right? To have more intel, to have more information. Marrone's been watching Will Campbell for a number of years. He's not going to be surprised by too much that he sees from Campbell. What about Armand Membu? Another favorite name of Patriots fans. I think Armand Membu is getting more and more popular as we get closer to the draft. What did Doug Marrone have to say about Membu? Brian Hines of CLNS posted this. When asked about Membu switching sides, Marrone noted how he flipped Jamal Brown in New Orleans back in 2006. Brown went on to be an all-pro in his first year on the left side. So Doug Marrone was asked, can Armand Membu flip from right to left? And Marrone said, well, I had Jamal Brown in New Orleans, and he was a right tackle. We flipped him to left tackle, and he ended up being one of the best left tackles in football. Tyron Smith is another guy who started as a right tackle, got flipped to left tackle, ended up being one of the best tackles in football. Marrone's experience does matter, right? Having experience in finding somebody like Jamal Brown, taking that right tackle and flipping him to the left, that matters. Marrone has that on the resume. He might not have 5 or 6 or 10 guys that he's flipped from the right to the left side, but Marrone at least has one guy that he can say, we took him as a right tackle and we moved him to the left, and he was fantastic on the left side. So at least your offensive line coach has experience in helping a right tackle transition to be a left tackle. Again, experience matters. Does Marrone see the same traits in Membu as he saw in Brown, right? Does he think they're similar players? And that made me look up Jamal Brown and Armand Membu's numbers. So here's what I came up with. Jamal Brown was 6'6". Presumably he's still 6'6" unless he shrunk. Brown was 6'6". Membu 6'4". Brown 316 pounds. Membu 332 pounds. So Membu's shorter but bigger. Arm length. Brown 34 and a quarter inch arms. Membu 34-inch arms at the pro day. When you look at relative athletic score from 0 to 10, Brown's RAS was 9.43. Membu's unofficial RAS, and this didn't include agility drills because he did not run agility drills at the combine, was 9.82. So Membu, better athlete than Brown, slightly shorter arms than Brown, heavier than Brown, shorter than Brown. That's the comp. That's the comp between Armand Membu and Jamal Brown. Brown played right tackle at Oklahoma. He was a 3-time All Big 12 selection. Membu played right tackle at Missouri. Last year was his best season, and he finished as a second-team SEC player. Now, interestingly enough, Membu, the last 2 years at Missouri on the right side, gave up a total of 23 pressures. Everybody talks about pressures with Will. Everybody talks about sacks with Will Campbell, right? Everybody says, oh, Will Campbell didn't give up many sacks. He gave up like 2 sacks last year, whatever the number was, right? I'm looking at pressures. This is not to say that Membu will be better than Will Campbell because, again, Membu has played nothing but the right side and Campbell's been on the left side. And that's a different position, and it's a different type of athlete that you're facing. But Membu, his last 2 years in Missouri, Membu has given up a total of 23 pressures. Will Campbell last year at LSU gave up 18 pressures. So Armand Membu gave up 5 more pressures in the 2 seasons combined than Will Campbell gave up last year. So when we look at the numbers and we talk about sacks, we talk about, disruptions, and we talk about pressures, Armand Membu didn't give up a ton of pressure. Now, Evan Lazar, who watches a ton of offensive line film, will tell you that Membu's pass protection, his pass blocking isn't great. He needs to work on it. So if he's a right tackle with not great pass protection skill, how do you feel about him being able to pass protect the blind side of Drake May on the left side? It's all in the conversation. It's in the conversation, right? Will Campbell's length, Armand Membu right from left, from right to left. Jeanty with a ton of touches, smaller frame. It's all part of the information that you're gathering. And that's why I think it's a difficult draft. It's a difficult decision coming up at number 4 if Hunter and Carter are both gone and you can't trade down. Because there are arguments to draft every one of these guys. But there's also arguments against drafting all of these guys. We talk about Campbell, the 33-inch arms. We talk about the wingspan of Campbell. And again, it would be an outlier, an anomaly, an unusual thing to see Will Campbell with his wingspan be a really good left tackle at the NFL level. But it also would be pretty interesting and challenging for Membu to move from the right side to the left side, especially if his pass protection isn't up to snuff on the right side. So all of these guys have questions. All of these guys have flaws. And we're going to be debating this over the next few weeks. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that thumbs up watching this podcast. Throw your comment in or out on Jeanty at 4. Who do you want the Patriots to draft 4th overall? Throw a name into the comments and tell me why you want that to be the guy drafted at number 4. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Thank you. Everything Pats, the New England Patriots podcast. If there's something that breaks over the weekend, of course, we'll be all over it. But until Monday, I appreciate every single one of you.